Hello and welcome to the Open Division. This is brought to you by Broadcast.gg. I'm Green Havoc, your host. I've got Frito and Lofty on the virtual desk, and we're going to be breaking down today's game between From the Ashes and Terra Gaming. And we're going to take a look at those teams in a second. But if you're new to the Open Division, the way it works is a Swiss system where teams will play 10 games over the course of 5 weeks, games on Saturdays and Sundays. At the end of each weekend, they will be reseeded to play teams with a similar game differential. And the top scoring teams at the end of 5 weeks will move on. First by game score, second by map differential. So that's the way the whole system works. But we have a fun one today. Lofty and Frito, are you guys excited for this?
I definitely am. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I'm very, very excited. We're at that point in the Open Division where, a lot of teams, especially the ones that have taken a couple of wins, a couple of losses, they're going to be taking what they've learned in maybe sometimes their first round of competitive play, tournament experience, and see how they they learn and they adapt and change up how they play in order to better themselves for future opponents.
Okay, all right. So now, Frito, I know you got to watch From the Ashes yesterday. What's some of the insight you think that this team's going to have to do from what you saw?
Well, the biggest thing is they have some roster change-ups because yesterday they were having trouble getting in sync with their front line, and they've detected that as something that either wasn't working internally with the chemistry of the team, and they have a brand new main tank player, which I'm very excited to see because the first preferred tank that he lists is Wrecking Ball. So we're going to be seeing DD roster, I believe that's how you say that, coming in, swinging in, if you will, on the Wrecking Ball, and I'm quite excited to see how that's going to make space for Red Panda, who had a very good game yesterday despite the team struggling overall. And if that Wrecking Ball is making space, man, I think Wrecking Ball is going to click some heads and put on a good game for us.
All right. So, Lofty, now, we don't know as much about Terra, but how do you think they're going to approach going up against a team that has some new parts active in the roster?
Well, Terra's going to have to make sure that they kind of identify those things, right? Because it's one thing to be able to identify the weakness of another team. And if their main tank is new to the roster, then there's obviously going to be still a bit of sync changes we would expect coming out from the Ashes. So look for Terra to try and identify that as a weakness and see how they exploit it.
All right. That's definitely going to be interesting. I love seeing teams have to try to adapt rapidly, and it's definitely going to be, especially if Terra happened to watch, the VOD from yesterday and seeing how they like to play, From the Ashes likes to play, these changes could throw them off. And it's, especially with the main tank role, that's going to be interesting to see how all of those adaptations play out on the field. What's Frito, what's something that you would like to see really change for From the Ashes?
I think, to put it simply, pressing W, as weird as that sounds, like when that Wrecking Ball goes in, I want to see the team commit to it for better or for worse, essentially, because the good thing I think about a brand new main tank player being Wrecking Ball is that to some degree, even the best of teams that run the character struggle to keep up with him because he just moves so much faster than anybody else. He kind of is a solo queue-esque hero, so if he is indeed proficient at using that mobility, it'll be more on everyone else to try to catch up, or at least, to time that intuitively, because it's not the same thing as like playing hand in hand with your Reinhardt, right? Who's all your timings of your Zarya bubbles and your stuns, they're all in sync. It's more so he does his thing and then you all try to catch up. So we'll see how that works out today.
Okay, so I'm just going to have this next question basically jump right off of that. So Lofty, if you were a team trying to shut down exactly what we were just talking about, what would be the things that you look for as a team to come together?
Well, coincidentally, in contrast to what Frito said, I'd like to see them push S, actually. With the Wrecking Ball, you have to sort of identify the amount of space that he is about to take. And so if they do end up playing this hero quite a bit, as per the favorite of the main tank player, I want to see Terra kind of take that momentum. Wrecking Ball is not very good at holding space, as good as he is taking it. And so I want to see them give him that space that he needs and then push right on back in.
Okay, so we might see a little kind of a riptide going. Teams really using a lot more of the map than what we see in just the standard kind of Ryan Zarya matchups. So it's going to be a war of sight lines. And when it comes to the sight lines, we've got a couple Hanzo players, we've got a couple Widow players. What's going to be the defining difference for one of these teams to really open up those sight lines? We'll start with you, Frito.
Well, in any case, even if the Wrecking Ball play does get shut down, which let's face it, it kind of is easy to do if you time it right. Like it's probably harder to execute than it is to counter. So if they do end up catching it, even so, DD Rossler has a second take being Winston. So in either case, I think we're going to be seeing some aggressive dive, sightline control, like you're saying, and that's going to be what's going to be important for this matchup.
Lofty?
Well, I'd like to see, again, Terra's designated Widow and Hanzo player is actually going to be on Bastion. So I want to see him make use of the space that his front line creates. And coincidentally, I also want to make sure that the front line also identifies the positioning that Bastion takes and make sure that they open up the correct areas for him to take those sight lines and to take those shots.
All right. Well, I'm getting the cue that these teams are ready, which means we are going to send it over to our casters, which are Kenobi and Trinok. So Trinok, on over to you, bud.
Thank you, Mr. Green Havoc. And yeah, I'm quite excited for this game. Hopefully both Frito and Lofty are correct, and that the teams know how to use both W and S, have a good grasping of how the keyboard works. I mean, that's always great to see.
I mean, you don't want to be going into a game where you don't know where the keyboard is, right? You got to know where that W key is, like Frito's saying, right? If you're not hitting W, you're not playing the game correctly, Trinok.
And I mean, if you're a Reinhardt, you have to know where the shift key is. You
Smash that shift key.
Smashing through, you know. But yeah, I'm Trinok. With me is the wonderful Kenobi. Kenobi, do you have any thoughts on this game we're about to go into?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be an interesting one. These two teams are close in record and SR, so I'm definitely interested to see what these two teams are going to be bringing to the table here. Hammond, definitely something that we could be seeing, which is, good for us because we love some Hammond over here at Broadcast.gg, and I can't wait to see what these two teams bring to the table.
Yeah, it should be cool. I love the guys, or I shouldn't say a lot of guys, but there is that new tank who said he likes playing Wrecking Ball. So it's going to be interesting to see what he brings out, if Wrecking Ball is going to work out for them. I don't know how I feel about Wrecking Ball on Lijiang Tower particularly. I mean, in this area, there are a few of those like spiral zones where you can just grapple claw onto and spin around for hours. So could be interesting if they try do some weird Wrecking Ball maneuvers around here.
Yeah, I mean, on this map specifically, this tower that we're going to be going to, you can just get in the middle and grapple into that tower and then just go in a circle, right? Just keep the spin to win hamster ball going. That's a lot how the style of play is. But it looks like this is usually the map where we see a lot of Terra, a lot of Pharmacy, a lot of Dive, a lot of Widow as well. And as the Desk mentioned, it is a game of sightlines sometimes when you have that Widow v Widow battle. So I'm interested to see what these two teams are going to be bringing out here, Trinok.
Definitely interested to see how they're going to use those sightlines or try get onto the point. Are we going to see the high mobility of the dive comps to try get over that channel over that environmental damage or environmental danger zone into the point, or are they going to play it a bit more safe, a bit more hardcore? And here, straight off the bat, you got DD Rossler on that Wrecking Ball just going for it.
Yeah, so we are going to see the Wrecking Ball on this map, and it's going to be played with D.Va, so this is very South Korean style of composition with these tanks, and it looks like they're just going to wait and just pile drive into the point right now as DD Rossler goes in, and it looks like the fight's going to start right here, Trinok.
Yeah, DD Rossler not holding back as he gets involved almost immediately, but he's facing down that D.Va of Hyper, and the Bastion just supporting them there with the Zenyatta as they try to take the fight to the side room. The point has now been unlocked. DD Rossler rolling his way onto it. It's going to get a bit of feed for his team from the Ashes. And Zig now just helping him, keeping them healed while keeping the point going. DD Rossler on the point, uncontested at the moment as Terra bag finds the D-Mech of Hyper. And now Hyper's in a bad situation, but that Winston has bubbled himself onto the point. Looks like this could be a good fight for Terra, but they need to do something here as Terra finally gets D-Mech, but he's on the point and he was stalling for a long time as Hyper alone, afraid. Zenyatta finally comes in as Bastion, gets a key pick off, getting rid of that Tracer, and now it's all the way for the boys in red as Terra take the first flip.
Yeah, a very scrappy fight here, and that's usually what we see on these control maps. Very scrappy fight. These teams are feeling each other out, but I really like that they have this Sombra here. All for one, playing that Sombra is going to do great against that Wrecking Ball that we see. Shuts it down if you get that hack on, and look at the alt charge for the side of for the red team here. They have two ults and they're about to have another as this fight goes down. Red Panda gets all for one though before he gets EMP Trinok.
As there was that EMP going up, and as it happened, DJ Rosa just rolled on the point. He does have that minefield ready. He could pop it at any moment. Transcendence comes out onto the point. They're trying to do something. They're trying to keep it alive. Oh, Terra. But DJ Rosa's dead. He's just sitting up, and he goes down before he can use the minefield. So now it's a bad situation for From the Ashes as they are fighting a very much one-sided fight at the moment. Red Panda on this Tracer trying to do something, but there is that Dragon Blade. There is the self-destruct that's going to be used almost immediately as Hyperla actually gets demexed. So wasn't able to get off the self-destruct. Fight is over in favor of Terra, however.
Yeah, and From the Ashes used a lot of ultimates for that fight, and they used the Farah Barrage. They didn't get anything, and the Patience coming out from the red team, they have 2 ultimates still today, and they kept that Dragon Blade as well, and Elysian has to be very careful here. Needs to farm up to that Transcendence, or this Dragon Blade can get a lot of kills.
Yeah, that Dragon Blade is going to be deadly as the minefield comes out. DD Roz is very aggressive. He loves just rolling in there as fast as possible. Terra now focusing down the Winston of Horizon. He pops his Primal Rage, trying to do something. Self-destruct finally comes out from Hyper. Doesn't find anyone, but the Primal Rage of Horizon is doing the work that is required. And here we got Zig just trying to keep them alive as much as possible. They have lost one of their supports and that Sombra, so they don't have the... I don't know the word right now. I can't think because there's lots happening on this point as the Wrecking Ball just rolls on through. Grappling Core into Horizon, clears the point. This is going to be a nice flip for the time.
Yeah, and Red Panda, they're doing a great job of getting, being that Tracer player that we had talked about earlier on the desk. He was one of the shining stars yesterday in their loss, but Red Panda here showing a lot of good play on this Tracer, gets a couple of 1-clips onto the backline, and now they have this pulse bomb for the next point. They have 2 support ults as well, so they definitely can hold this point for a little bit longer, but 84%, we're in last fight territory here, Trenok. If Terra can win the next fight, they most likely can hold it until the end of the map.
Yeah, this is very much Terra's game to lose at the moment. They just need to retake this point, and that'll be putting them in a very situation. The Sombra of All For One finally gets some action on the point, taking out that Trace as Doughboy moves on. There's the self-destruct in, just trying to clear a bit of space, make sure they can't do much, and Terra does manage to get the remake, but they are sitting on a Transcendence, and that EMP can be used quite deadly, and if that Pulse Bomb can get into the space, it can be used and do something for their team, but it's Terra alone in the point. Finally, the Pulse Bomb comes out from Red Panda, but he doesn't get much for it. It gets taken out instead, and Terra gets pushed in the point as Genji trying to make his way on with the McCree. Doesn't succeed, and it's going to be a flip. This is good for Terra at the moment.
Yeah, All For One doing a great job on this Sombra here. Is farming up EMP. It's almost a cooldown ability right now, Trenok, for her. And just getting it every fight. And look at the ultimate commits for Terra. They have so many. And now, for the side of Team From the Ashes, you need to get on the point right now. But everyone's dying, Trenok. It looks like a bloodbath for the side of Team From the Ashes here.
Everyone did indeed die. That was the thing that happened. The Mercy of Ziggs just trying to get on there. Do something. Tracer, Red Panda taken out by Hyper. And the Valkyrie comes out from Maximera. I think that was just a victory flight for him as they take the first map.
They take that first map really good from the side of Team Terra. They really like how they were able to use that Sombra to counter that Hammond. Hammond, one of those characters with, if you don't have the cooldowns, you're almost just basically not a hero, kind of like Lucio and Doomfist, where it's very hard to do anything when you don't have those cooldowns. You don't have that shield, you don't have the grapple, you can't even get in your ball form and get away. So great job from them. And if, DD continues to play this Hammond, I expect definitely from the side of Terra to keep running this Sombra. They're doing it so well. All For One, even getting some picks onto the back line, just doing everything.
Yeah, exactly. Especially, they saw that the Sombra came around. Sombra's doing so well to just disrupt Wrecking Ball in particular and keep him out of the fight. And yet they still want to be playing him. So I'm not too sure what you thought of why they keep playing the Wrecking Ball despite him being hard countered by the Sombra.
Yeah, it's interesting to see. Maybe it can work if you are able to get the Sombra out of the sky, out of the ground at the start. It could work, but it looks like they're just going to go onto the point here. And it looks like Brigitte's going to go down almost immediately. So they do have a pick in their name for the side of Terra.
That's a bad situation for them. That is in Terra did list Brigitte as his favorite hero to play, so you don't want to see him going down. The Rhino puts his shield out, and DD Ross is just running in here, power driving in, trying to get out, doing what the Wrecking Ball should do, initiating, get out, but he's not finding any of the key picks that he needs.
Yeah, he's going in, and he's going into a Sombra again. We talked about it, how good Sombra is against that Hammond, and he's getting getting hacked almost immediately every single time. So he's not having the greatest of games right now. He might need to look to switch to something more like a Reinhardt, have that shield to just go in with your team. As All For One here, gonna have that EMP. They could EMP grab, and Doughboy also could be farming up to that Dragon Blade in the meantime, and no defensive ultimates besides the Valkyrie to speak of.
Yeah, the grab coming up for Hyper also going to be used quite nicely, especially as they're holding quite a nice choke in this tight area. They pushed out, they're not on the point, they're locking down spaces. So grab could come out, could do some damage to the team.
Yeah, could definitely do some damage, and it looks like they lose Genji at the start of the fight, but the grab's going to come out right now. No defense matrix to eat it, and it looks like it's just going to be a Reinhardt swinging into that Graviton, going to get the DMAG, going to get intro bang off of that Brigitte, and it looks like it's another fight reset for the side of Team From the Ashes. And look at the ult economy, Trinok. 5 ultimates for the side of Team Terra. Nothing really on the side of Team From the Ashes, but they do have that dragon. Can maybe, you know, zone out a little bit and make sure they stop the bleeding, can give them some spacing as well. So they're going to have to use that, maybe Valk aggressively into this next fight. As Doughboy here, going to be trying to do some damage, but he is getting rather low.
Yeah, he's going low, and as it happened, he does get taken out. Dragon Strike goes through, followed by the Power Driver, and there's the Minefield trying to deny them getting back onto the point as they come to the defender. Didi Rosa might want to be getting onto the point at this point to do something about that. Doughboy still sitting on that Dragon Blade, however, could come out as the rally from a Terra Bang. Going to give a shield team that extra bit of armor. The Minefield doing the work he's got to do as they finally find an upper hand in this fight. Horizon shifting into the Diva, doesn't really get it out, gets punished for it, and now it's just the lone Mercy trying to keep her Sombra alive and to stay alive in this fight. Not going to happen. There's the flip. That's much better team performance from the Ashes.
Yeah, the ultimates finally come online from the Ashes. The Valk aggressively and the Minefield able to get them over the hump and get onto that point. But Trinok, this is last fight territory for the side of Team From the Ashes. If they lose one more fight, it's most likely a point for the side of Team Terra. And they do have the Graviton Dragon Blade combo that they could use to just end this game right here, right now.
And that could be quite a deadly combo, but the Power Driver of that Wrecking Ball is saying no, and Terrabang going in, left-clicking, swinging that whiptail, just trying to do something. There's a swinging rat! And that you don't want to see too often as he finally finds the Reinhardt of Horizon. That's going to be a good hold for them. And as you were saying, could be last fight territory, bit of deja vu from last map. Can From the Ashes learn from the last map and do better?
Yeah, they're gonna have to do, but that's not the way to start it. Genji going down to Bastion is gonna get rezzed, and Doughboy's gonna go down as well. Another res gonna come out. Both Genjis getting rezzed by the Mercy. This is really lore centric right now. His intro bang is gonna go down, and now they have a 5v6 advantage, Trinok.
Yeah, no more res than was used early on in the fight as Horizon charges on, but there's a self-destruct coming out, trying to just defend. Shield doesn't go up as the Dragon Strike goes through him. That's quite a combination to deal with the Earth Shadow. However, that self-destruct does do some damage, finding the Sombra, but there's just a hazard fight all over the place. Minefields, there's hammers, there's everything going down on here. Terra not prepared for what just happened on the center of that.
Each team used all of their ultimates, Trinok. The only ultimates left are we're gonna have the EMP and the rally. Everyone else used their ultimates. So for the rest of this map, we're most likely gonna see vanilla Overwatch except for that EMP. All for one here. If he can hit the fattest EMP of his life, they might be able to push this all the way through. And the rally's gonna come out. And here comes the EMP, Trinok.
There's the EMP, as you were talking about. It gets it off beautifully, but there is no follow-up, unfortunately. Only managing to get Terrabang out.
Oh,
there we go. Now they're moving in. They have the supports. Elision just gets charged down, but unfortunately Horizon punished for that huge charge that split his team up. Terra need to do something, need to reform, need to rethink. Bastion just stunning his way onto this point. The Power Driver goes down. They're trying everything to stay alive. Terra dominating this performance. That fight's not going to last too long, and there we go. That's the flip, and as you say, probably the end of the round.
Yeah, it's the end of the round. Just a lonely Brigitte caught in a Graviton here. The Genji might get back onto the point, so this might not be over just yet. A couple of dashes, and it looks like that might be it here. No Mercy, no Genji. That's going to be a Trinok, and it looks like they are going to take a 1-0 lead here, Terra.
Yeah, at that point, it's just a stagger stall, trying to stagger as much as possible until someone can get there, do something, but the Genjis are just saying no, just locking him down before anyone can even stagger back onto that point. Doughboy doing something.
Doughboy getting a couple of nice dashes, and I like that. He's like, I'm gonna pad the KDA just a little bit. I know it means nothing. I could just sit here and not do anything, but gonna pad those KDA stats. You know, you gotta represent for your DPS. You gotta have those golden limbs, right? Don't you, Trinok?
Yeah, I mean, what's the point of being there if you're not just gonna kill everything you see, right?
I mean, that's your job as a DPS. You gotta destroy things. You gotta kill things. That's your job. And speaking of, you know, destroying things, All for One there, pretty much took Hammond out of the game and took the Wrecking Ball out of the game. Just, it's such a difficult difficult way to play that character if you don't have your cooldowns. You don't have your grapple, which means you can't get to pile driver. You don't have your shield, so you're easily blown up if the target selection from the other team is very good. So I really would have liked to have seen maybe a switch off of the hamster and onto something like, maybe a Reinhardt, have more shields and have more, have more survivability with your supports. But it looks like he is very comfortable on that Hammond. He does seem to have a good grasp on how, to use it mechanically. If he does have his cooldowns, use that grapple, use that pile driver. I saw a lot of times he had those 5-man pile drivers and gets you a lot of alt charge in the same time. His minefield placement was very good. So it could work. It's just that Sombra is such a good counter to him, and it almost like negates everything that's coming out from your Hammond player.
Yeah, it was weird not to see him switch off. And you talk about Overwatch being a game where if you're not adapting, you're probably going to find yourself one-sided all the time in the fights. And they did have a great push.
I've played solo queue. I've played solo queue. I know what that's like.
I know that guy's not switching off.
Yeah.
That one guy who please play Mercy, and then he doesn't play Mercy, and you're just, that's the end of it. But yeah, I mean, it's maybe something in the team. They're trying something. They really wanting to get the Wrecking Ball play working for them. So they just kept hammering it away. And they did have a great moment where it did work out for them for a few team fights, in fact. And then, unfortunately, Terra, all for one, once again, EMP in, and that was it.
Yeah, I mean, the EMP is such a good ultimate, and Sombra just in general right now is such a very high placed on the tier list for DPS, just with the infinite stealth, the scouting that you can get for free in that infinite stealth, as well as hack, which is just by itself is probably one of the greatest things in our kit, able to silence enemies. And then on top of that, you have EMP, which is able to silence multiple enemies. So EMP and hack, and the way that All for One specifically has been playing this Sombra, has been really good, farming that EMP very well at a very fast rate. Like I said, almost a cooldown ability for them right now. So definitely the Sombra play coming out from Terra, I really like. I want to see some more adaptability from the Ashes, switching over to some of those different tanks. So in this next map, which we are going to be going to Rialto, it's going to be interesting to see if they keep on this Hammond or if they're going to switch on to something else.
Yeah, I definitely want to see them have a bit more versatility. And in Rialto, you typically see that hook combination in that first stage, moving onto the courtyard. And it's not really, I mean, you can run the dive, and it's going to be a great dive map if you can use the high mobility, get away from that environmental damage. It's not really a Wrecking Ball map, however. I mean, I don't see Wrecking Ball being able to swing or get into the spaces as good as he was doing in Lijiang Tower, where he has a lot more buildings to hook off of and get into what he needs to do.
Yeah, you do have a few good buildings here to hook off and do the grapple and pound. You just have to be very careful, right? Because you do have that hazard of the water. If you're not mechanically gifted at this hero, it's going to be very difficult for you to hit those pile drivers and move around the map in a way that's going to make it harder for the enemy to kill you, especially if you're not mastering how to roll the hamster ball, which sounds kind of weird. You just hit WASD, but there's a little bit of a mechanic there. You got to kind of Mario Kart it a little bit, hit that drift, hit those grapples, and you got to get through the map very quickly. So it looks like we are going to be seeing DD Rossler just stick to his guns on this Hammond and on defense too. So interesting.
You know what they say? Yeah, you know what they say? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. I don't know if this is a situation where it ain't broke, however.
I don't know. I mean, it kind of broke on that first map. They did lose.
Yeah, they did lose. And very interesting to see not having the staying potential of your Reinhardt or your Orisa, rather coming out with a very flexible, highly mobile defense, especially in this first area.
Yeah, and Terra, it looks like they're going to be running the old pirate ship. This is in Australia. This is Italy. This is Rialto. And this Bastion is going to be able to pump out a lot of damage onto these beefy targets. And Genji's going to have a very hard time in the air as well. They don't really have anything to deal with him. So they demech Intrabang early in this fight. And no defense matrix for that Bastion is going to be huge in this coming up fight.
Yeah, so they did bring out the Orisa, which is great for them, gives them a lot of just ability to stay and mitigate what the dive is doing. And in that situation, you saw DD Rossler initiate, and you can knock off the Bastion, sure, but then the Bastion just sits and spams them down.
Yeah, this is really one of those moments where I'd like to see a Reinhardt, have that shield available for you as the Deadeye gets screwed up by Doughboy there on that Ana, and it looks like they're just going to go in, the tank ult's going to come out, and this is going to be point A captured here for Terra.
A very easy point A capture. FTA, you've got to rethink yourself at this point and go, why isn't our dive composition working? Well, maybe because you shouldn't be running the dive comp right now.
Yeah, dive comp is really interesting on this map, especially into a Bastion. It can work, but you need to go full onto the Bastion. You need to use everything, the defense matrix. You need to have the Winston as well. So I really would like to see them switch over to something else. They are switching over to a shield tank, which I do like. They are going to have some a little bit more sustain with that Orisa shield. That's going to be coming out from Deliarossi, but they're going to be highly immobile here. So they need to be very, very careful in this next fight, as a few ultimates are coming online for the side of Team Terra. And From the Ashes don't really have too much to think about besides that nano boost.
Yeah, From the Ashes are making some interesting compositional choices, if I have to choose a word for it.
Yeah, interesting choice. I mean, you don't really see D.Va Orisa on maps like this unless it's like King's Row, right? Where you have that high ground advantage where you can, play that D.Va lower ground and then play, bring it back up. But Genji there is going to get the pick on the all-for-one, and that might be what they need. Unfortunately, though, Bastion has something to say about it, getting the real Genji out of the fight early.
Bastion popping heads, just pointing the click. Pointing the,
just click heads.
the scope, that one,
pointing
the click.
You just gotta point click on their heads, Trinak. I mean, that's all you gotta do, right? That's how you win this game.
That's video games, right? You just click.
Yeah,
Press W and click. That's how you win video games.
Yeah, that's what they're gonna say on the analyst test. They're gonna say, oh, you pointed and clicked.
Yeah, here we go. Genji trying to drag him like into Transcend. It's not gonna work too well, and he does get anti-healed and is taken out finally. But this is going to be looking good for From the Ashes. They finally have a bit of a defense, finally have a bit of room, stopping the momentum of Terra, as Terra now pushing back, restructuring, bringing out the Reinhardt.
Yeah, they finally have some good picks coming out from, they got the Genji out of the fight early with that Dragon Blade, and they got the huge Nano Blade onto it as well, and they do have a couple of ultimates to their name. They have this Tire, which could end the fight before it even starts, and it looks like for the side of Team Terra, they're switching up to a more of a beefy front line with that Rein, with that Zarya. They're going to have a McCree Tracer, not a duo we see too often, but if all-for-one can get into the back line, he has been doing so far, he might be enough of a nuisance to maybe take the pressure off Bastion in the back line.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how he plays the Tracer differently to the Sombra as Horizon goes in, swinging, just trying to take out that Supercharger. He has been nano boosted, so he's ready to go, and there's a halt. Shielded, self-destruct, goes nowhere, all for one. Just doing something as Horizon charges down on Terrorbank, who gets put to sleep here. That Anna says, no, it's time for you to sleep. DD Rosler now alone and afraid. Elision just trying to do something, but gets taken out himself. And it's just DD Rosler backpedaling in the wrong direction away from his team. That's going to be the second point.
Yeah, Bastion there saving his team with that, getting rid of that tire. It was going to get at least a 3K if it had hit, but he got that one shot on the tire that saved his teammates. And there, after that, they were able to push it all the way through. And if we look at this next one, DD Rosler is going to go back to the Hammond. It's a little bit better on this part of Rialto than it was on the others, so it could work. You have a lot of stall potential, but they need to be very, very careful, as Genji is going to get a pick on the all-for-one at the start of this fight.
You're getting all for one. That's a key one. He's been such a key DPS with them. Red Panda just going to be trying to get into that backline. As here we go, the initiation from Rosler as he swings and power drives down, followed up by his team. His supporter manages to get out of that situation. But we have Hyperbola on the Zari, just holding left click, and there's a Dragon Blade in, and he's going to find the backline, and that's Maximera down. You don't have supports. You are counter anti-heal though, but it's not going to matter when it's just an Ana alone. Mercy supporting, pops with Valkyrie to make sure her team can carry through that.
Yeah, I really like that from Elision there, using that nano boost early to get Genji that little bit of extra percentage that he need to get that Dragon Blade, and then the Dragon Blade was pulled out. No ultimates on the side of, no Transcendence on the side of Team Terra to save it, but now they do, and they have a lot of ultimates coming into this next fight, Trinok. They're going to have 4 ults. They're going to have the Nano, the Graviton, the Shatter, and the Transcendence. A lot of ultimates to their name.
Yeah, I definitely want to see a Nano Grav Strike. Earth Shatter comes out from Horizon, and he gets Maximera with a Transcendence, very aggressive Transcendence to try and push his team in there. Doesn't do much. The minefield just takes everyone out. So what I thought was an aggressive Transcendence was just Maximera trying to defend from that minefield. Not too much happening elsewise though.
Nice fire strike there from Horizon. Zig's gonna go down, and as you mentioned it, Maximera with the great Transcendence there, getting the minefield out of the way early, only gets 1 kill, and now they're going to be pushing over to this last point, Trinok. They still have the Graviton and the Nano and the Pulse Bomb, going to have that McCree ult as well, and not much else for the side of the team from the Ashes.
Yeah, they have a lot of out potential. Spice Self-Destruct comes out, does get shielded. Hyperbola just bubbles himself to stay alive as DD Rosler just swings into the shield of the Reinhardt, and there's the grab. Finally comes out, does suck in Terra, and Deadeye to follow it up. Is he going to find anyone with that Deadeye? Unfortunately not. Horizon still sitting on this Earth Shadow though. He can do something. He can crowd control them if he needs to. And now it's just Elision who has to get back to the point as DD Rosler runs back to get some heals. He's going to come out again, swinging pile driver onto the payload. Try to clear it away. Hammer goes down, doesn't get him, unfortunately, but he is anti-healed. Taken out very quickly. Genji, Dragon Blade, trying to do something, trying to keep his team in this fight, just dragging him forward as he's offered by 6. He just wants to keep him alive as long as possible. But this is looking good for From the Ashes. Finally, a good defense from them. They're using that spawn advantage well.
Yeah, Genji there at the end, saving his team with that Nano Blade, getting again the damage just to get that extra percentage to the blade, and then using the blade to get a couple of kills, and they stalled that payload just enough at the last second. Only a minute left, and this is one or last 2 fights that they're going to have from the side of Team Terra. Not a lot of ultimates to their name. They might just have the Transcendence when they get there, but Earth Shatter and Graviton still a ways away.
Yeah, DD Rosa has the minefield, and he's used it well. He knows how to shut down the space if he needs to. The Valkyrie definitely going to be a key in their defense. Power Drive is going to go behind that May wall, just there to store. Anna gets the body grenade off, however. And DD Rosa unfazed just swings away, uses that grappling core to get out of the situation as fast as possible. And now Maximarian does have the Transcendence. That's going to be good for him to do something, but the minefield has gone out. Transcendence never followed it up. Nano Boost can help them through this fight, however, and there we go. Now the Nano Boost is on, Transcendence on horizon. He does Earth Shatter in, and he gets Alicia and Genji, and they go down. Deadeye comes out shortly after. What a great combo. 6 just pops the Valkyrie. She really wanted to keep her team alive. Unfortunately, did not have the desired effect, but the May wall is going to just stall them an extra longer. They only got 5 seconds left to go, and they got to push that payload just so much closer. DD Rosa, though, he's just doing work, and he's keeping his team in as the hammer is just swinging around and around and around. There's a Lesion now on this Lucio. Maybe trying to just take advantage of the speed and the spawn advantage, but they are doing really well as the stagger is now coming out from Terra, and the Dragon Blade going to put him off here as he goes in, but he's not finding anyone. Then eventually manages to find Doughboy, and now the grab is going to not be followed up on as he gets taken out shortly after, and it's just Maximera on this point. It just needs to stay alive as long as possible. Fortunately, taken out, overtime clock rundown, and a great hold from the Ashes coming to life.
Yeah, from the ashes, rising from the ashes a little bit there. Trinidad, great job from them getting that stall. It looked so bad on those first 2 points. I like that we saw a little bit of adaptability from them as well, going to some different compositions and going for some different picks, putting DD Rosler on that Orisa and making it a little bit more interesting. But he eventually went back to the Hammond, and while the Hammond didn't work too well on the first 2 points, on that last point, he did a great job getting those pile drivers. It's such a closed area on that last point, on point C. You get a lot of pile driver opportunities, and then he was able to hit 5-mans. And when you get those 5-mans, and there's the follow-up as well, it's very difficult, and you charge your minefield very, very quickly. So great job from them, and it looks like they do have, so the win condition for them is set. They have to get this all the way basically to the end, and if they can do it, it's going to be a 1-1 series, and we're going to have a series on our hand.
Yeah, that's when the game gets interesting. The fight becomes more real. DD Rosa's loving this wrecking ball. I think he must have had a hamster as a child. Just saw him running on one of those like glass balls that you get for your hamsters.
Yeah, he's like, I want to play that in a video game one day.
Yeah. And now he has his opportunity, and he's doing it. He's actually using it quite well. Like I said, it didn't work out in the first section, but it made up for it once you got into the more close quarters areas of this map. What are your thoughts on Terra and their fight to the end, or the fight to defend, I should say?
I mean, Terra had a really easy, I don't want to say easy, but had a very, I guess easy is an okay word, had a very easy way through those first 2 points, or first point rather. They just ran it all the way through with that Bastion, and then it didn't work. There's some good play coming out from the side of Team From the Ashes to, counteract that Bastion composition that they were bringing. But what I really liked was I saw that, from the side of Team From the Ashes, they adapted. And like I mentioned that before, adaptation is one of the things that you definitely need in this game. And if they can keep doing that, I think they have a much better chance of beating Terra than From the Ashes.
What I find the most interesting in the both compositions is I'm so used to seeing a Pharaoh trying to get concussion. I can't say it. The Pharaoh just trying to boot people into the river.
Just say conks. That's what we use when we just say conk. If you say conks, people will know what you mean.
All right. But there we go. DD Rosa now initiating once again. Just loves getting over the heads of them and trying to power drive in. And Terrabang goes down early, so you don't have your support. But it's not going to matter because DD Rosa just still keeps going, keeps rolling forward as you have to do. Anna gets the anti-heal off. Terrabang swinging that chain, finding some key picks. Eventually gets taken out by the opposing support there. And Horizon managing to hold this point now as the Widow battle just in the side.
Yeah, Bastion just grappled up into Red Panda's face and said, "Dink, you're done." And one of the things you lose when you don't have one of those shield tanks, especially against double snipers, you lose a lot of that shielding. And a lot of the shielding could have helped with this battle that we're seeing from Bastion and Red Panda. But Bastion is going to go down, went a little bit too far in. And it looks like it's an even fight right now, Trenok.
Yeah, nice Widow trades happening over the course of this, and looks like Terra finally realized how they can deal with this event. They're focusing down who they need to focus down. Terra Bang found alone and afraid. DD Rosa did get revived, but he's not going to last too long without the rest of his team as they fall one by one.
And they're gonna fall. I mean, Red Panda is trying his best right now to win, and he's, you know, coming out on top a little bit on this Widow battle, but it's just not enough. The rest of the team isn't working, and they do have DD Rosler's minefield, and his minefields have been really good so far. Unfortunately, though, for the side of Team Terra, you're about to have 6 ultimates online, and that's a very high hill to climb if you're the side of Team From the Ashes.
Yeah, we've seen Rosler use that minefield, and there we go. As I talk about it, he does pop it in the Transcendence, and he loves doing that. Just that suspense of Transcendence used so well on Terra Bang. Gonna get demeched, and now Terra looking good. They didn't use any ultimates. I correct myself because they used the Transcendence, but they didn't use any really major ultimates that could have cost them the next fight.
Yeah, I mean, such great ultimate patience too. I mean, just understanding that, you know, if All For One uses this Transcendence here, he can body block a lot of the minefields, just go in, just put his face into them, and since he's basically invulnerable at that point, he destroys a lot of them. And now the ultimates are going to be coming out for the side of Team Terra here, and they're going to see if they can get a couple of kills, Trenok.
Yeah, Dragon Strikes are a little bit of a wasted Dragon Strikes. Kind of threw it into the river, not getting much out of it. The Supercharger is down. That's going to be a good help for them. All For One has been antibiotic with this. The Dragon Strike and the Genji going to be finding All For One Horizon. Now we have a fight as From the Ashes using their limited amount of ults to actually do something a little bit better. Self-destruct, not going to find anyone. They're going to get to cover in that situation. And now it's just the Roadhog supported by his, I guess, just support, and that DPS, the snipers do manage to take out a very aggressive Genji.
Yeah, they're gonna have one more fight on this payload, and it looks like Elysian is gonna get Doughboys, so a couple of picks coming in. Red Panda as well is in the backline now, gets 2 kills on the team, and then he's gonna get the pulse bomb as well. This man is a man on a mission right now, and it looks like Red Panda is gonna be able to push this team over the payload map at the end, and it looks like they are gonna get point A here. Great play coming out there from the side of Team From the Ashes.
Elysian doing really well with that body grenade in that really tight cluster fight that was happening. And I think at that point, Terra were just trying to stall as long as possible.
Yeah, they definitely were. I mean, they're trying now to you know, play a little bit more aggressive, just leave Elysian here on the point, put it the best the way they can. And now from the side of Team Terra, they're going to be switching over to a more, you know, more Rein Zarya composition here. They're going to be playing this Rein Zarya a lot more sustain, a lot more shielding that they're going to be able to have to stop Doughboy on this Hanzo. But Doughboy does have this drag and could use it to make a little bit of space as they push this payload more forward.
Yeah, the dragon into the underbridge there could be deadly. What are your thoughts on this Doomfist coming out? I'm guessing he's going to be trying to shut down the Wrecking Ball as much as possible.
Yeah, he's going to try and get the Wrecking Ball, but he's also probably going to try to get into the backline, maybe deal with Elysian there, maybe deal with Zig as well, try to get those supports out of the way, and then just get out. You know, that's the Doomfist play right there. You get that one shot, then you get out. He does kill DD Rosler there, gets that one shot, and it looks like they are going to be able, for the side of Team Terra, to stall this just a little bit more. But for the side of Team From the Ashes, you do have a couple of ultimates to your name. You're going to have the Nano Blade, and the only issue is All For One does have that Transcendence, so that could be the counter that they need.
Yeah, that Transcendence comes so deadly. 4 ults to just 2 on that team, but they're going to be very even soon. Minefield comes out onto the space, denying the area once again. No Transcendence to save them this time. Horizon just runs in with his shield, however. The Minefield does find someone do some damage. All For One locked in the side room. I shouldn't say All For One, I should say Horizon From the Ashes doing really well to just not be phased at all by the composition. The hero picks the side of Terra.
Yeah, DD Rosler, they're doing absolutely huge work on that Hammond. Got the Zenyatta out of the way before he could Transcendence so the Nano Blade could come through, and now the Transcendence is going to come down, but the huge anti from Elysian there is going to stop a lot of the healing.
Anti stopping them from following up on that Earth Shatter, quite pivotal for them, but they are in a bad situation now. Power Driver is on, but there's a lot of Terra. There's a lot of red on that payload. The blues gotta do something. Why is it always red versus blue?
Yeah, I don't know. Red versus Blue, a tale as old as time coming out from these two teams. But speaking of ultimates for the blue team, they don't have anything to their name. Neither do the red. The closest ult that we have is DD Rosler's Minefield and the Diva ult. So they they do have a bit of an ult economy advantage, but only with 35 seconds left, Trinok. This is last fight for them. If they don't get this, it's most likely going to be GG, and they're going to go down 2-0.
It's time. It's the do or die moment. DD Rosler initiates. And Terra Bang just trying to deal with this Doomfist. So Bastion, as he gets the backline, but Red Panda finding the supports. Don't have that revive. Minefield goes out once again. Pretty good at getting that Minefield up as fast as possible. And they're looking very strong in this fight. They have the numbers. They have the time to do what they need to do. Hyper not going to be able to just stay alive there on his own as a lone Zarya.
Yeah, Lone Zarya, and that's going to be point B coming out from the side of Team From the Ashes here, and they are going to be able to push this just a little bit further as Red Panda goes a little bit too aggressive there. But for the side of Team Terra, you do have that Genji blade for this next fight, and I would really like to see, I would really like to see something counter that. You don't really have a defensive ult, unfortunately, for the side of Team From the Ashes. You just have the Valkyrie, which might be enough, but Doughboy here, if he can get a clean Dragon Blade, it'll be absolutely huge.
Yeah, that Dragon Blade could be pivotal. Self-destruct goes into the backline. Hyper does bubble himself, but Horizon protects Horizon. Unfortunately, that's a mistake from him. Revive does come out. She pops the Valkyrie. Trying to do something here is Maximera as he gets out of the situation just in time before he can go down. And Red Panda trying to do some work. The Dragon Blade from Doughboy finally activated. Gets involved with this fight. Hyper sitting on that Graviton could definitely be a deadly sort of utility they have to just stall out the point a little extra.
And that's the danger of not taking a Zenyatta, kids, or a Lucio. You don't have anything to counter that Dragon Blade Doughboy. They're getting into the backline, getting a couple of kills, and making that fight theirs. And 30 seconds left again, Trinok. This is last fight territory for the side of Team From the Ashes, but they do have 4 ultimates to their name, and they might have 5 coming in, so they definitely can win this with a little bit of good play.
Yeah, definitely going to be waiting for DD Rosler to get that Minefield. He does get it up. Now he's going to initiate almost immediately, and that's the Minefield. Minefield going to be popped, and there we go. And now we have the fight is on Nano Boost out there. In there with the grab set. No! Horizon just hammers into that grab, and this is a bad situation. 6, she's alone. Red Panda can't do much for her as she has to pop the Valkyrie just to stay alive and keep Red Panda in the spot. They have to stay on the payload. They have to do something. 6 flying around like a beautiful angel, and DD Rosler finally makes his way back to the point, but the stagger is real. The stagger is on. This could be a bad situation with him. He's going to just try to do as much as possible, and his team do get back. So the stagger is out of the way as DD Rosler keeping his team, dragging them forward, one grappling claw at the time, and Terra back with the D-Mech Elision now gets killed by an epic Dragon Blade coming from that Genji of Doughboy, and it's just Rosler on this point. He is not in a good situation, and eventually the Doom Pistol Red Panda does get back to help him, and now he's taken out, and Red Panda goes down. That's the overtime counter. Terra take map 2.
Terra there with that awesome Space Jam combo, something we don't see too often, getting that Graviton into the Doomfist Meteor Strike. Great play from them, great ult combo coming out from the side of Team Terra, and From the Ashes there looked a lot better on the second map than they did in the first map. They had some bright spots like Genji here on this Dragon Blade, hitting the Nano Blade, getting a couple of kills, so they definitely do have the tools that they need to come back and reverse sweep this series. But they are going to be down 2-0, a position that they are unfortunately comfortable with after yesterday. So definitely see if they can bring it back in these next 2 maps.
Yeah, they can turn it around. They have the potential. We've seen them turn it around multiple times. And just on the note there, Genji living up to his name.
Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna take the Genji name and that's gonna be your battle tag, you better come correct on your Genji play, Trinok. You better have those cybernetic ninja skills.
Yeah, what I want to see, and maybe he's got the mechanical keyboard skills that he needs, that we were talking about earlier. I want to see a player named Genji face a player named Hanzo. I think that could be interesting.
That's like you got the lore in there, you got the Shimada brothers in there. That's the dream right there. But another dream that we have is we got to hear what the analyst has to say, Trinok.
Yeah, let's throw it back to that man with the beautiful casting analytic desk of Green Havoc and his troop, Happy Troop. I don't know.
Well, I do try to keep it spiffy looking, so I appreciate that. That was an exciting game. We saw a lot of different strats and some heroes that you don't normally get to see. We saw the Hammond. We saw lots of Hammond. We saw Bastion. We saw a bunch of fun comps. And so I'm going to go ahead and ask, we'll start with you, Frito. What was the comp that surprised you most that we saw over these first 2 maps?
Well, it's an interesting way to word it, because you either could take it towards the direction of being surprised in a bad way or a good way. I think I would say I was surprised to see the wrecking ball on defense. I believe they had. I'm trying to. They did run it right against the pirate ship. Eventually opened with that. It's such a risky way to go up against so many good comps on Rialto, and I think because it's such a new team that we're working with from the Ashes, with the new rosters as of today, that they may not have developed strategies for a map like this that's a bit more tech, I guess. There's a lot of individual, sort of almost Junkertown-esque meta with Rialto, so they may not be ready to play a map like this, but we may see it look a lot better on other maps that have a bit more straightforward play, like Assault, where you kind of just go in and there's not a lot of geometry in your way, whereas Rialto, there's just weird buildings put in different spots where you have to play around. It changes severely, so the Bastion comp essentially was sort of a knowledge check and a teamwork check from the Ashes, and I think it paid off.
I remember both of you, Lofty and you, were talking about how there was a window for the Hammond defense on point 1 of Rialto to work as that payload kind of crept around the corner, that window right there. What went wrong with their defense to make it so it just snowballed right on past that corner? We'll start with you, Lofty.
Well, one of the things that we want to point out is that in that particular point on Rialto, on the first point, you have that little hallway that they have to come out into the courtyard. Now, it's going to be very hard to fight a Bastion in there for obvious reasons. It's a directional sort of area. There's only really one way to look, so it's very easy for Bastion to take targets. And so what I would have liked to see from the Ashes is giving the card a bit more space to kind of come out into the courtyard, make it so that Bastion has a harder time sort of localizing targets and making sure that he has to look different directions when you eventually engage. Now, what ended up happening, and again, huge props to Horizon, tank player for Terra, for being able to allocate his ability cooldown, his shield, to reposition himself around the Bastion, so that every time the Bastion needed to reposition himself, then Horizon was always on top of it with the protection that he needed. So very, very good on him, but I would have liked to see a bit more space given up for that card push.
Okay. We've seen a lot of this heavy dive style throughout this game with the Hammond, and so when it works, it seems to really just roll through the defense, and when it doesn't, it seems to just kind of peter out quick. So Frito, what's the make or break moment here in these engagements for this Hammond play?
I'd say perhaps a couple issues would be, if we're still sticking on Rialto, for example, the team playing around not having a shield and knowing what that means for you. There's times where they'd be able to go in, make a little bit of space, create some chaos, and either like Red Panda would say like pick off the Ana, but the other teammates who don't really have any bubbles to play around, or Reinhardt barriers rather, they could just get picked off and traded back. And that's not really good enough for getting that Hammond to start to snowball. So I think it was kind of a weird, on the attacking side, weird decision for them to engage on the tanks instead of going at the snipers, because really there was kind of a shooting gallery for the Terra snipers in the back for the courtyard defense to do a lot of just free firing, essentially, as the rest of the team was kind of fighting in the front line. And it wasn't until Genji started to bail them out with some who are you-esque Dragon Blades to start getting the ball rolling, which is a pun I did not intend.
So I think one of the things I found most interesting about Horizon's play, to go back to what Lofty was saying about some clutch plays, is the way he reacted to the fact that he didn't have a mirror tank to play off of on the opposition, and we just saw him start to shift more and more and make plays. What was the kind of that momentum turning moment? I'm thinking of on second point when they came back and stalled for B for a little bit longer. What allows that play from the Reinhardt really to get so aggressive? Lofty, we'll start with you.
Well, I mean, with Reinhardt not having an opposing Reinhardt, obviously you're going to get, it seems like free shatters, but it actually makes it gives you more importance to getting those shatters really effective, because without a main Reinhardt on the other enemy team, you'd expect them to be running high mobility characters instead, which of course they were. And so sometimes getting shatters may not seem as free as you probably would think, but Horizon did a very, very good job at identifying moments where he can definitely, lay down a shatter, try to get it as effective as possible, whether it meant shutting down Genji blades or when Hammond misswings into a corner. And he was just doing such a good job of making sure that his open shatters were not taken advantage of and the mobility did not get in his way.
All right, we are ready to head into this second half. So, Trinok, I hope, because I'm hyped, it's on over to you.
I sure am hyped, Mr. Green Havoc. It's going to be a great next map, Temple of Amubis. What is an Amubis?
Temple of Anubis. Anubis is like all the statues are cows instead. Like that's what, that's what it's probably what it's like.
Perfectly designed for hamsters to just run through.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what these two teams, if we're going to be seeing, speaking of hamsters, we've been seeing a lot of Hammond coming out from DD Rosler, and it's going to be interesting to see if he keeps on it. It seems like he really just thinks that of that hero as a comfort pick, and sometimes comfort pick can only get you so far on certain heroes. So I would like to see maybe more Ryan coming out from them. We haven't seen barely any Winston coming out from him as well, and Winston on certain types of compositions, if you need that dive, you're going to need a Winston. So interesting to see what these two teams are going to bring out onto this next map as we do go into Anubis here.
Yeah, you don't want to be the one-trick hamster.
No,
I don't think that's a title you want in your life.
Only in solo queue is like where you could probably do that. Like solo queue, if you want to be the one-trick hamster, okay, but sometimes even solo queue, it's not that great unless if the team is countering you. So All For One specifically was playing Sombra a lot in that first on that first map on Li Zhang, countered a lot of what the Hammond was trying to bring to the table, and so I'm interested to see if he's going to start bringing that back out a little bit more. Sombra, especially on Anubis, has a lot of good play. You can get those health pack hacks in point A and also at the bottom under the bridge at point B. So All For One could possibly bring it out as we're going to see these two teams, looking at their comps just a little bit as we're close to getting into the Anubis right here.
It's interesting that you mentioned the solo queue, the one trick in the solo queue, and how it can work. The problem is, and it's the problem that's been happening from the Ashes, is that they aren't following up any of the disruption. And Analysts did talk about this. And in solo queue, also, if you're playing that Wrecking Ball on a solo queue and no one follows up your disruption, it doesn't work out. And it's happening From the Ashes here.
Yeah, I mean, the whole point of the Hammond, really, the pile driver, is you get that damage into the backline and then the rest of the team follows up, because you do have a good amount of damage and disruption once you do hit that knockup, especially if it's a 5-man or 6-man knockup. You get a lot of disruption, especially if you're going up against something, like goats or something like that. So I really would like to see more from the DPS specifically, some more follow-up on this pile driver coming out from the Hammond, as it looks like we are going to be going into this first map. And it looks like for the defense of I think that's from the Ashes, it looks like they're going to be taking just a regular defense, except for the Sombra, actually, or rather Symmetra here. Symmetra, a pick that we see a lot on Anubis. You're able to use that teleporter to switch between the high grounds. You have those turrets that can be placed from far away and can stop them going through the archways. So I really like this Symmetra pick coming out from the side of Team From the Ashes, and we'll see if it can work.
Hopefully it does work, and I think you cast because the entire composition of Terra, because they do have the Winston and the Genji.
Yeah, Winston, Genji, classic dive right there from Terra. They have, a lot of that dive capabilities. If they're going to go in right now with the dive and with Bastion, is going to be able to get Red Panda out already. Gets that huge rocket punch, but Genji is able to get All For One, and it looks like this fight is just going to be hot and heavy on the point here.
I thought a Mercy in Valkyrie was a Majestic Angel. Seeing that Doomfist fly across the map and just take out the Widow, that was beautiful. As Horizon now just having a little bit of a skirmish on the side there with that Ana of Volition. They do have some point control here from the Ashes, just trying to fight back as much as possible. Teleporter is going to be causing a bit of issues. Genji just popping back and forth, in and out all the time, but he does get taken out and punished for it. And eventually the teleporters go down. Horizon put to sleep. It's time for you to go to bed, my dude. But that's still not going to help them, as the point is being contested. Rosler has to power drive onto there, gets taken out very quickly. All For One having none of it, says no point, going to be captured by Terra.
Very scrappy fight here, and Alishan trying his absolute best to, win that fight for his team, but it's not going to be enough, and they are going to be able to get this point, and now they're going to see if they can snowball it into point B here. They do have the ultimates for it. They have the Tracer Bomb. They have as well the Meteor Strike. They're going to have Blade, and they have the Valkyrie if they want to go in aggressive, so they definitely can get this, as they are going to maybe just wait a little bit for their cooldowns and then try and snowball here onto this point B trip.
6 ultimates though, that could be a deadly combination as well. And as I said, Valkyrie goes down and Primal Rage almost immediately. They won this point, they won it now. Pulse Bomb doesn't find anyone. And that Primal Rage is clearing so much space. The Dragon Blade now throwing every ultimate they possibly have into this fight, doing some damage. Meteor Strike does the work, and now they have their points and they have superiority, and it's going to be a spawn stagger from them as Terra is trying to stay alive. DD Rosa does have the minefield, pops that out, and then Terra just going to maneuver through that, try to stay alive as much as possible. Bastion is having the time of his life. He brought the Doom, he brought the Fist, he's ready to go. Lishan and Genji are scared. They just hanging on the side, they're trying to do something, trying to find a way to bring this point back, and they are managing slowly but surely. It's a hard fight for them. With the help of Rosla, Hyper now gonna get DMX. Oh, he doesn't. He puts the self-destruct just in time. Ice Wall up, blocks that off, saves his team, but now it's a 3v2 on this point. I say 3v2, it's a 3v1 now. And Terra, DMX, Baby Diva is gonna be in a bit of a horrible situation, and the Winston finally gets back onto this point. Genji is on his Brigitte, gonna stun him out, just comes that dive a little bit better, but he gets taken out, and now you don't have your Brigitte, but they are looking favorable in this fight, finally managing to get something back.
Yeah, what a huge stall there coming out from the Ashes, making sure that Terra gets nothing for that push, wasting a good amount of time off of their clock too. Now they're at 4 minutes and 40 seconds here, wasting about 1.5 minutes of their time from that last push. And now they are going to stick on these more stally heroes here. They're going to have the Doomfist, Illusion very close to that rocket, to that Meteor Strike. And Red Panda, if he can get Blizzard, another great stall tactic. So it looks here that it's all hands on deck for the stall as that Pulse Bomb gets Illusion out of the fight.
That's huge, getting that Doomfist. Now you only have the disruption of Rosla at the moment as the Dragon Blade gets Genji in the backline. Valkyrie comes out to keep the team alive. She's in a very bad situation. However, Sig's gotta get somewhere where you can do something for your team because they are just getting pummeled to the ground. And DD Rosla, he's just trying to bring them forward as much as possible. Styx is trying to get a sneaky revival. She does get the Mei back into the fight. Quiet Freeze not gonna do much when you're getting charged down in the Genji. That Brigitte, why are you there? As in Terrabang tries to self-destruct there. The point, Horizon, get your shield up. He does in time, but then Terra's looking low, looking in a bad situation. Doomfist comes out now. Lishan finally in the fight, comes out with a Meteor Strike. He's ready to go, and Red Panda has the Blizzard. Lots of crowd control, lots of space to now. Blizzard, Minefield, everything being put onto this point. Just stop them from pushing forwards.
Yeah, I mean, what a scrappy fight we're seeing coming out. I mean, it seems like from the Ashes here, the masters of the stall from what we're seeing. They're doing such a good job of stalling the point, getting the picks that they need, and now they're going to have that pick and be able to stop the bleeding a little bit more as 2 more picks come in for the side of Team From the Ashes. And now, looking at these ultimates, Doughboy, the only one with an ultimate, they might have the Graviton combo with it, and now Bastion going to be switching over to the Reaper, going to be able to do a lot of damage to the Mei, to the Brigitte, to the Hammond as well, going to be able to hit those huge hitboxes with his Reaper, and I really like this pick. We might be even seeing some Beyblade combo, something we haven't seen too much if that Nano Boost can come in time.
Yeah, he's had enough of this Mei just having a way with the ice. That Reaper going to be there to just do everything. I think that's their goal. Just let Bastion do everything as they finally get onto this point. Rosla pile drives in the backline, but the grab comes out, followed by the Dragon Strike. The Ice Wall, the grab very well played from Red Panda. That's going to keep them alive a little bit longer, but Hyper is just having fun with the high energy, clicking left, clicking right, getting the kills, and they have point superiority. They are going to get 1 tick before the stag can come in, and I say that, but Elysian just throws his body into this fight, and I think that might have been a misread from him. Had he waited a fraction of a second, he possibly could have had more teammates to stop the second tick.
Yeah, and now they are. Here comes the Nano Reaper. Like I said before, that bomb is going to have a thing. But Bastion goes down. He dies to the bomb turnout while in Nano form. That's an absolute disaster.
That's the Beyblade out of the fight, and Doughboy doesn't know what to do now. He's in the corner. He's trying to do something. Horizon swinging this hammer. They have to recover this. Terra need to do... What? I just ran out of words there. I think I just said they need to do something at least 5 times in that sentence, because from the Ashes, clear them away.
Yeah, I mean, they do need to do something, Trinok, and they need to get these fights won because they look so good at the start. They use all their ultimates and they get the kills, but the stagger, again, coming out from the Ashes, so good, making sure that they're waiting to the perfect moments to get onto the fight and rotate and getting those couple of picks. The target selection has been huge, getting Bastion out of the fight, but now Beyblade is on the table, as well as another Graviton Dragon Strike combo. This might be all they need to push forward.
Yeah, just gonna throw Elts into this fight could be what they need. Six does come out with a coalescence, and there is a meteor strike, and the minefield goes down. And there's the grab onto the minefield. That's gonna shut down Doughboy's Dragon Strike as he tries to strike into a minefield. You don't want to see that. That shut that attack down immediately.
That was a 900 IQ minefield coming out from DD Rosler there into the grab. That way, when the Genji dives onto that minefield, he dies almost immediately. Great play from DD Rosler. And look at the time, Trinok. 45 seconds left. They don't have a lot of time. This is last fight for them, but Doughboy is able to get intro bang at the start. So it's a 5v6 right now. They need to push this advantage as quick as they can. One fight left. And they need to use all their ultimates here. They need to use that Nano, they need to use that Valkyrie, and hopefully Horizon can get shattered in time.
Unfortunately, waited too long, and Terra's back in the fight. 6v6, 20 seconds to go. Trying to get along that side angle as DD Rosler, they are focusing him down. They realize he's a heavy opponent that you have to fight, but can they get through this choke? That is the question as the self-destruct goes behind him. It's going to be shielded off, but no! It finds off for one. Now you don't have your support, and you have to get onto this point, and fast. They do finally make it, and they don't have a lot in this fight, however, as from the ashes, rising like a phoenix, just find the wind that they need to do everything to keep them off the point. But no, they finally get the point. Bastion is nano boosted, and he's just gonna lick his way through, just shotgun everyone else. Genji trying to just stagger on. Six goes down, and now it's just Genji alone. The death button comes up. They want this point, and they're not gonna give it up anytime soon, as that grab just gonna finalize the fate of Genji, and that's gonna be it. They do manage to get 3 ticks, those ever important 3 ticks.
The supports in that last fight, the stars of the show, Maximera, rezzing All For One, and then All For One knowing that he has that nano boost, calling for that resurrection, and then putting it right on the target you want to see, onto Bastion. Get that nano bladed Reaper. What is this season, or not nano bladed, nano boosted Reaper? What is this, season 5? Again, gets so much damage out, is able to walk through that team, shred through their health bars with the amount of damage that he's getting from that nano. Great play from them. And I mean, unfortunately for the side of team from the Ashes, not able to stall it all the way, but man, what a stall coming out from them. Almost 5 minutes that they had to stall that. And it looked like so desperately bad for them in certain situations, losing members at the start, but they were able to hold all the way to overtime. And now the win condition for From the Ashes is set. They need to get all the way to the end, and Terra needs to stall a little bit better than they pushed.
Terra has the power and the Rosler, the one-trick wrecking ball, proving that sometimes being a one-trick can just make life amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I can't stress enough how awesome, how funny that play was. The 900 IQ minefield there in the grab, knew that the Dragon Blade was going to be coming out there, and minefield exactly when he dashed in, getting all that damage and blowing up that Genji while he was in blade animation before he could get any of those kills. So it does work. It does have its place in this meta, and he's going to be bringing it out for the attack now. So it's interesting to see what, they're going to be bringing out from the side of Team Terra to stop for this attack. It looks like All For One going to be going back to that Sombra. I talked about it earlier, how good he was at making sure that DD Rosler couldn't have as big of an impact on the Wrecking Ball as he could. But it's going to be interesting to see how these two teams bring this out, as it looks like we are going to be seeing more of a divey style of composition coming out from Team Terra here.
The dive suits the Sombra, so why not run it? And like you said, they need to do something about Rosler.
Yeah, they definitely need to do something about Rosler, and Red Panda here is going to have a pretty good sightlines here. Not really many shield tanks available for them, so he's going to have a lot of sightlines. And there's the first sightline. Doughboy going to go down to Red Panda almost immediately. That's a 5v6, and you don't have the res turn off.
Yeah, and Genji snuck onto the point with the Sombra, using that optic camera to get there as fast as possible and get a nice Babcat going. And they do have the first tick before Terra even reacted to them, as they're finally making their way onto this point now. Maximera just on this Lucio, dancing his way around the map, staying out of fight, just keeping on the point. Elysian's asleep. Yeah, it's not the time to be sleeping if you ask me, but they do manage to clear it out.
We talked about this at the start, and it was mentioned on the Analysts desk a little bit, how Red Panda and how the side of Team From the Ashes don't really capitalize too well on picks coming out from Red Panda. And there, they had that huge pick onto Doughboy at the start of the fight almost immediately, but they took a little bit too long and were a little bit too uncoordinated to get the picks that they need to roll onto the point. As All For One is going to one-clip Red Panda here, get back safely. That's another 10 seconds that From the Ashes is going to have to wait to get Red Panda back into this fight.
That's a beautiful pick. For All For One, you don't have that poke damage of the Widow.
You don't have the poke damage, and another thing that you don't have is you also don't have the style. As All For One again is going to kill Red Panda. All For One has basically been on Red Panda killing duty this entire time. Is going to be able to get him, and Doughboy is going to follow up with a good amount of damage for their own. It's going to be another stop for the side of Team From the Ashes. They're going to have to wait a little bit longer. And it looks like now Red Panda going to be switching over to that Junkrat. We don't see it too often on offense here, but you do have a lot of sightlines that you can, or a lot of chokes that you can throw your bombs into, so it's going to be interesting to see how they play this out. And actually, he's actually going to be switching over to the McCree, so I've cast a Cursed myself here. No, he's going to be switching over to the Moira. He just doesn't want to stay onto a pick that I'm talking about. I can't analyze, but he just keeps switching. It's very difficult. So now he's going to be going on to the Moira. They're going to have a little bit more healing here, as Genji does have that EMP, so they could try and initiate with this EMP. DD Rosler also very close to that minefield, and as we know, Trinak, he has been money with these minefields so far.
He's been on point with these minefields, but it's not going to help if the moment you initiate this team fight, your entire team just gets jumped upon, surrounded by Terra, and denied any entry.
Yeah, I mean, what's the best way to counter Sombra with a Sombra hack? Use your own Sombra hack. EMP the Sombra. I mean, Genji can't use his EMP if All For One already used his EMP, and All For One already 44% to another EMP here. And now here comes the huge EMP actually from Genji. This could be their initiation here, Trinak.
Yeah, the EMP goes off. DD Rosa does get onto the point. The minefield goes out. Doughboy's in a little bit of a tough situation now because he can't attack them. Self-destruct is going to do something to help clear out those mines. As all of it, one mine go down, and now they do have an advantage on the point because there's no minefield there, but they got to capitalize on this, and they are. DD Rosa, he's alone, just a hamster and a ball, and got to roll away. Just he's going to try to stall as long as possible to keep his team in this fight.
Oh, it's going to be a really bad stagger actually coming out from DD Rosler. Now, Lishan there, unfortunately, used his bubble right before the Diva Bomb went off, so he wasn't able to save himself. And now it's looking very dark and dicey for the side of Team From the Ashes. One push left, no ultimates to their name besides Intrabang's Diva Bomb. And on the other side, you have Doughboy, you have the Nano Blade ready, and the EMP from All For One as well. This is looking very, very dicey from the Ashes.
But they do get onto the point quite quickly. Horizon has been nano boosted, however, so he's going to be able to output a lot of damage if he can pop the Primal Rage when it's needed, but it's not going to be needed. He hard counters that, Lucio says no, and Terra bang with the D-Mech, and there's the Primal Rage finally just bashing in Terra away, keeping him off the point as long as possible. That's going to be it. Overtime's done.
Yeah, that's going to be it. That's going to be a 3-0 for the side of Team Terra. They're taking a rather convincing full hold on Anubis, and it looks like From the Ashes gonna have to go back to the drawing board just a little bit with, you know, try and figure out that hamster comp, because it does work well, but there's some times where it just doesn't work as well as you're getting countered. All For One there, basically living in the back line of the side of Team From the Ashes, and they're gonna have to maybe work a little bit to deal with that somber pick that they haven't been able to do so far. So I really like what I'm seeing from the side of Team Terra, though. Team Terra looks very, very good. They have a great understanding of the somber play, and they also have a great understanding of how to counter enemy picks. You know, they saw that there was a lot of Hammond being played, so they picked a lot of things that could counter it. The Ana, the Sombra, they played some Brigitte as well. So I really like what I saw from Team Terra being able to flex their muscles and flex their Overwatch IQ, I'll say, and play against this team of From the Ashes.
Yeah, I mean, I did mention it earlier. After first map, we talked about Wrecking Ball Rosler not switching off the Wrecking Ball when he was hard countered by the Sombra. And like I said, one of the key parts of winning in Overwatch is adaptability, changing to match what your opponent's giving out. Terra doing it so well, like you were saying. And I think that's why they did come out on top here.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the way that Overwatch is a game of switching heroes, right? They didn't give you the ability to go back and switch. It's not like a MOBA where, you know, you can just have those 5 characters and they're set characters. No, you can counter and keep, you know, adapting to what your enemy team is playstyle. And that's really that's when Overwatch shines, is when it's 2 teams continuing to counter each other with their picks, and then fighting each other and seeing what happens. So From the Ashes have to work a little bit more on doing, flex their muscles a little bit with who they're playing, how they're playing it, some different compositions. I didn't see Dive run at all from them. No Winston, not a lot of Reinhardt. So they definitely need to work on their compositions. But Terra, they look like they are really comfortable with a lot of what they're playing so far. So that's definitely a team I'm looking forward to watching in the next couple of seasons of Open Division.
Yeah, and we did talk about that he is the new tank. So, that might be why they just struggling to balance it. Before we go to the analysts, I do want to say one thing. Everyone talks about the Tracer Widow rivalry. No one ever talks about the Sombra Widow rivalry, so I'm going to hand that to the analysts. You guys better be talking about Sombra Widow rivalry.
Well, you know what? All for One should change his name for All for Red Panda, because that just Sombra going after the Widowmaker just constantly. I mean, it wasn't even letting him out of spawn, and sometimes the team was still around him. The amount of flexibility we saw from Terra was just, I mean, great across the board. So I'm going to go ahead and hand this off to Frito here first, because one of the things that I liked most was the way that Terra really showed the ability to adapt and change based on what they were playing against, and kind of kept tweaking little things. What was the big difference that gave them just what they needed to wrap up this final map?
Well, we saw it on multiple parts of the map, where even on their attack, which on B ended up not mattering, but you can kind of see them flex that Overwatch IQ that the casters were talking about, where they were struggling quite a bit against the stall, and they knew what the win condition was. Kill the Doomfist early. They kept doing it. He just kept coming back and getting frags, but they eventually built up for the Graviton. They swapped to those tanks a lot earlier with a lot more time, realizing that they needed those big tank ults in order to take B. Whereas if you contrast that to from the Ashes, not really sure how to handle those more complex counter engages on point A, eventually swapped to the tanks, but it just kind of was aimless in what it was approaching. And ultimately, if you play that Sombra Genji counter engage defense well enough, it's so hard to counter. Like, you just kind of have to outskill it in a way. There's few direct compositions that will deal with it. You have to just sort of play whatever comp you can play to a level that can compete with it. So ultimately, the engages were just too good.
So Lofty from the Ashes obviously was playing with a new tank, and they definitely on that last map, it looked a lot more one-sided than I think the first two maps did. There were moments where their dive with their wrecking ball looked well coordinated, and there was times where it fell apart. What's something that moving forward from the Ashes should tweak as far as the way they take these engagements?
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned that, because a lot of the times on point A, let's take the Ashes offense on point A, trying to take that point away from Terra. We actually saw a pretty decent sync up from the front line with their Wrecking Ball and their Diva diving in on those targets that Terra could not set up on the high ground. Now, the problem is that while the tanks may have been sort of reading up on each other and getting on the same page throughout these first 2 or 3 games, the rest of them didn't seem to get the memo. And so what ended up happening is that, sure, they'll be able to dive onto the Ana that couldn't get up on the high ground setup, but in the same time, their backline is dying to the Winston, the Genji, the Diva that's also set up onto the high ground. And so what From the Ashes need to do better moving forward is to just ensure that if we are going for a dive, then it's kind of an all-for-one thing, right? No pun intended onto the player's name, but everyone has to come into the fight with one plan in mind and executing it as a unit, because if anyone gets left behind, especially with Diva and Hammond being such high-speed characters, then they're just going to get collapsed on by the superior sort of spacing and high ground advantage that Terra really secured for themselves over and over again.
Okay. So speaking of all for one, he was a player that was put under a lot of pressure. A lot of the dives really were going after him, and I personally think he composed himself very well and handled it with character swaps, and even when he was just playing Zen into such a brutal dive at times. What was was there a defining feature of his play style that stood out to you, Frito?
Well, I think it must come from his ability to swap onto the Sombra as well, because I think for the majority of this map, he was playing the Sombra if we count the defense. So he probably knows both ends of the spectrum on that, right? Like, he understands how the infiltration tactics work and how he wants to exploit a backline. So he kind of knows it a bit himself. So I would expect that experience really helped him out, stay alive and stay up in the backline.
Okay. So we'll get to one of the funnest questions of the show, which is the MVP here in a second. But before we get there, Lofty, what was we looked at this Hammond dive a lot through the course of these maps. Is there a strategy you think they should be adding that we didn't see much from them as far as their offense goes?
if they continue to run the Hammond, if they choose to run the Hammond, which again, it's still very viable, but they have to prioritize that setup period. Hammond plays in such a way where he has to take the engagements immediately as he sees them. He's very terrain dependent. He's very opportune dependent. And Hammond moves very, very quickly. So the team has to prioritize that setup period so that everyone is sort of ready to follow up onto the hamster's engagement wherever it may be. And sometimes that's really tricky. And you just have to pick the right heroes, Sombras, Doomfist, Tracers, heroes like that can really follow up on really, really good setups and very good engagements.
It's actually, speaking of Doomfist, we saw Alinity play a incredibly suffocatingly good Doomfist at times. Was that maybe a pick we should have seen more on the offense, despite obviously the use of Sombra on the defense for All for One? Both of you ultimately.
Sorry. I think that's a really good point, because if we compare everything we've been saying to Terra's attack, where they went for a single healer, mass offense dive, and what I really like about that, if you compare that to how From the Ashes attacks were going, even when they got picks, they're just a little slow to get in, not really enough threats, and you play in a more standard, stable team comp way, it sort of allows that counter-engage defense to get on you, or really any defense, for that matter, if they're running the bunker or the counter dive. But what Terra was allowed to do with all that firepower is with the Doomfist and the Tracer and just so many different threats colliding into you, whether it's the respawn advantage or just the sheer firepower of it, they force kills to happen. Whereas in the more standard team comp, they, From the Ashes, were forced to play a bit more perfect, whereas cheating in, having more damage and less healing actually allowed for more chaos on point A for Terra, and that ended up working.
Yeah, it really was kind of a little bit of a boom or a bust. And the counter engage, I will say, from the Ashes was just really well played. They had an ability to stall out points for a long period of time. Even, on point A of Anubis, where, that's not an easy trek to get back. They kept that going for quite a bit. We saw the Symmetra really pick up some eliminations, and for a little bit there looked like maybe even they could turn around their A defense, but ultimately they did fall a little short. So here's the fun question. For you guys, you watched this game, who was the player that stood out the most? Who was the MVP of this matchup? We'll start with you, Lofty.
Oh, I've got to give it to Horizon for sure. Main tank player for Terra. Everything from his positioning of his shields and protecting and peeling for his Bastion on Rialto, all the way to making sure that he was juggling that backline and really controlling those engagements on the Temple of Anubis defense. I just have to hand it to him, and he's also getting key shatters off. He's getting great primal rages off, and his positioning and his follow-up as well, enabling his team to get in there, and the space he created to be used effectively is just gets the MVP for me.
All right, what about you for Frito?
Yeah, I think I would say Horizon as well, for similar reasons mentioned. I think when you're up against a Wrecking Ball, especially as the main tank, it's sort of on you to make some big plays, because as we've discussed on like Rialto, you don't have that main tank in front of you, but that doesn't mean it's, free shatters or anything like that. So Horizon, I think, really stepped up to the plate in order to handle the pressure well of just getting knocked around constantly and being disoriented, to make the plays when it mattered, pressing that crucial S key when it matters as well, to be able to peel back when the Wrecking Ball came in. Horizon played really well. I also would give a shout out to All for One, I believe is the name of the player, who played Zen and also flexed onto the Sombra, who I think did an admirable job and really was shutting down Red Panda quite often.
Well, you guys, you stole my picks, and Frito, you even took my my honorable mention. So I'm just gonna completely agree with my analysts, and ultimately it's a good thing, I guess. You guys are the analysts, right?
We try to be analysts, I think. Is the
Pretend
the
to be
right
at least.
Yeah.
I play one on Twitch.
Yeah, fair enough.
So, any parting notes before we get out of here as far as this matchup is concerned? Any insight maybe that I haven't asked about?
I would say From the Ashes, it could rise like a phoenix from all this experience. I think they looked a lot more lethal from what we saw yesterday. And playing around the Wrecking Ball is great, but there's certain times where it's just not going to work. Like third on Rialto, for example, they went up against this big blue barrier that's quite good in close range. It's a character called Reinhardt. He's really good. So I don't know if that's a hero not in his pool, or they're just not comfortable playing around it yet. But more tank diversity is definitely good, because Hammond is kind of a make or break hero, and it's not going to work on every map.
All right. And what about you, Lofty? Any final insights before we get on out of here?
Again, one of the most fun things about Open Division is watching teams, especially ones who are new to the competitive scene, kind of learn from their mistakes, learn from their previous opponents, and move on. We saw a bit of a allusion to that in From the Ashes, taking that Symmetra strategy from a previous opponent, if I remember correctly. So it's just really fun to see the teams who are new to the competitive scene, or maybe it's their first Open Division, learn from their mistakes or learn from previous games and really take that forward.
All righty. There's a bunch of exciting stuff, and this was a fun matchup between these two games. And there were moments that were a little closer than the 3-0 may have shown, but ultimately the win does go to Terra. So that does wrap up the coverage for this game. But if you want more Overwatch Open Division, we have another game coming up in just a little bit. We're waiting for the teams to get ready, so that'll be a little later. It's going to be between Polar Ace and Feeders with Benefits, so make sure to check that out. As far as this coverage goes, we are wrapping up and getting on out of here. You know what? If you're into this whole kind of esports thing and you want to join a community, the Broadcast.gg community is a fun and open group of people who, well, love esports and love Overwatch. So, check out all of the host analysts, check out the Broadcast.gg, and join a very open family. So we will see you all later when we are here for the next game.